Hello and welcome to Help Nobody Told Me. My name is Shannon Johnson and I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. My partner Jasmine is our co-host today. We are both realtors in the Chicagoland area, and we have a new guest this week.
My friend Nancy Kontney. So I met Nancy a little while ago through a mutual friend. And I was telling her about our podcast, and she said, I want to be on because I want to talk about what I went through, a personal experience that I went through, and I think I have a lot to share. So, Nancy, you're a retired teacher.
Correct, I am.
You're a wife, you're a mother, you have 3 kids, right?
Exactly.
You dealt with things with your mom, right, recently? So tell us a little bit about your journey and your background.
Well, I've been a teacher for 37 years and am now retired and enjoying every minute of that. And I had the pleasure of working in the Barrington school system. I also was lucky enough to receive the Golden Apple Award, and so I've really had such an amazing career, but more importantly,
and thank you for teaching.
You are welcome.
The next generation.
I have enjoyed every minute of it. I'm doing a lot of subbing right now and working with United Women, and I'm going in and doing reading with kids and having my opportunity just to share some of what I've learned and thought about in teaching. So it's a nice extension, a very nice extension.
And it's something you probably had no time to do while you were working full time.
Absolutely not.
So now that you're retired, it's something that you can apply your skills and give back.
And love it. I love it. And I found this amazing group of women. And I've been with a non-for-profit for years, Engage, where I traveled all over the world and taught teachers. But I was all over the world doing it and having the time of my life, but not doing as much in the States. And so now what I really feel good about this is our county. It's all Lake County, and it's all kids that are trying to find their way to be in kindergarten without just walking in on day one. So it's transitioning and making these efforts, and what United Women is doing is amazing. Just amazing, and I'm getting to be part of it, and I love that.
Awesome. So life transitions happen at any stage in life, even when you're little preschoolers.
Exactly.
So not just as, when you get married or when you go to college or when your kids leave. So it happens throughout your life.
So I remember when we were talking, having a cocktail or two.
No.
One of my favorite things to do.
After a Women United meeting, we kind of went out to a bar and kind of talked about that evening, right?
Right. But it's nice. We debrief like that, and I really enjoy that.
Yes.
Because I've learned so much from those debriefings and that really good Chardonnay that there's so much more to United Women than I knew.
Yes.
So I enjoy that. So thank you.
You were particularly, when I was telling you about the podcast, you were talking to me about your mom, and you moved your mom to Chicago from Peoria.
Yes.
And tell us what led to that decision. How did you go about all that? Because I think so many of our listeners are facing that with aging parents, and maybe they don't live in the same state, and how do we navigate all of that?
Well, it's definitely a journey. And I have to say, I just had the most amazing mom. And she was a widow at 60, or 59 maybe. So a very independent woman, traveled, of course was very sad about losing my dad at such an early time in her life. But I think what I most admired about her is how she just kind of got back up and did her thing. And so for my children and my nieces and nephews, she just, as a grandmother, was so special. And she never did anything over the top. It was just her as a person, how she acted. I have twin boys. She always had a Matchbox car in her purse, always. We'd be at Chili's, her favorite restaurant, having dinner, and one of the boys, of course, was probably getting in trouble, and she would always have that. Something, sing a song, draw. She drew this mouse that kids all got such a kick out of because it was easy to do, and they could do it on their placemats. And it was things like that I was like, you know what, I want to be like that. I want to watch it. I'm watching that. So as she aged, she lived in Peoria all her life. She and my dad lived in Florida a little bit, but as far as
Is that where you're from, Peoria?
I'm from Peoria.
Okay.
But the bulk of her life was in Peoria, and her parents lived there, and she had a tiny little mom and a great big tall dad, and they were equally lovely grandparents. But My mom, as she aged, and she was part of all these bridge clubs, and just had this amazing group of friends. But then as her health declined, and it was more of, she was always cognitively on top. Up to 2 days before she passed away, really. We were very fortunate not to have that situation. But it became her being able to, frankly, take care of herself. The walking, the instability.
Yep.
So making that transition was hard. And I have one brother, and Jim and I, thank goodness, have always been on the same page with her and really be able to walk alongside each other and figure out what to do. So it was time. And she was, of course, resilient, not wanting to go live in some kind of assisted living. And so we started at the Garlands in Barrington. Not a bad gig. I wouldn't mind living at the Garlands in Barrington. It's a beautiful facility. So in moving her there, we did some things that I regret and some things that I'm really glad that we did.
Okay.
I wished I'd had more patience. I just wished I had more patience in the packing up and the frustration that you're feeling. And we did it so quickly that I was like, really, Mom, do you want to keep this? Where I should have been, how are you feeling about this? How are you? But, we weathered that together. We've always had a good relationship. We're very similar people. She's very outgoing, very driven. But the two of us coming together like that was difficult. But I remember one dear thing that she did. She had this huge collection of cups and saucers. And as her friends were coming to say goodbye to her, which for me was the hardest thing, she was very gracious and not teary, and she could have been, but she took those moments with those individuals, mostly women, and mostly just friends, teaching. She was a speech path in the Peoria public school system, so she had lots of teacher friends. And then we have family there, and of course she had all her bridge clubs. And each person that came, she gave them one of those cups and saucers.
Sweet.
Because frankly, we didn't want all.
The truth comes out.
But it was so nice because that was part of her transition.
Right.
That was part of her saying goodbye. But I will tell you, and I was thinking about this as I was driving here today, I'll never forget driving her in the morning from leaving her condo in Peoria and driving to the Garlands. And I remember she slept the whole time. And I remember thinking, I wanted to talk to her,
right,
but then I kind of didn't because it was awkward.
Right.
And it's awkward to be awkward with your mom because we've never really been awkward.
Did she want to go or no?
She knew she had to go.
Okay.
It wasn't
So
like,
she
I
wasn't-
can't wait to move to Chicago.
She wasn't resisting when you.
No, but she was also very pragmatic about my husband, Chris, who's just an amazing person, a doll.
Yeah.
He said to my mom, hey, you know what? What if we were to take the piano room? We had this little piano, room off of our dining room. And what if we were to use that and then have this bathroom that we had kind of a powder room? What if I take the pantry out, put a shower in, and you come and live with us? And my mom just sat back and she said, there is no way in hell I'm going to do that. And,
don't you wish you?
and I think Chris was a little hurt.
Yeah.
And I think the reason behind it was my kids were in the throngs of everything. I really can't even remember how old they were. I think Beth was maybe finishing up middle school, and there was just all this. We were busy. 2 dogs.
Right.
Chris was working. I'm working full time then. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, that's it. She wants her independence. She doesn't want to watch me take everybody to soccer practice. She probably doesn't want to eat the crappy dinners that I'm going to make because I'm barely making it. So I think that transition for her, that made it pretty profound. Like, I'm going to go live somewhere else.
And what a gift she gave you.
Oh. And another gift she gave us is one night she was driving home from Bridge Club and she realized she was seeing not quite as clearly. And I remember she called me the next day and said, I don't think I should drive anymore. I was glad I didn't have to say that.
Yes.
I know my brother Jim was glad we didn't have to do that.
Right.
Because that is truly like rock gut.
Yes.
Your independence is cut off by at least 75%. So, that was a gift.
Yes.
That was a gift. And it was really in the hospital when she had a little spell, that a doctor said to her, you know what, Lillian, you probably shouldn't live by yourself. And she said, you're right. And my brother and I had been talking to her about it for about a year and a half, and she was like, I don't need that. So there were other people in line helping to make that transition.
Okay.
So when we finally got here, she was at the Garlands for a very short time. But what I enjoyed is I could go over at night, like for an hour, and we could have a glass of wine together or just talk. I didn't enjoy, and she knew it, helping her with her bills. I didn't enjoy necessarily doing the laundry. I did her laundry for about 8 years. I mean, the whole time she was here. And then you're a little resentful because it's your time.
Yeah.
She's taking your time. And those are things, I know she felt it. Those are things I wish I'd done better. I wish I'd been better about that. But I was also trying to raise my kids and support a very busy working husband and my own life.
Your own career.
And my own career.
Right.
And my own self.
Yes.
And trying to make sure myself was okay. So
That's
move.
called the sandwich generation,
Exactly. And I was the
I feel like
baloney.
we've lived the same life.
Yeah, I know. I was the baloney and all that. And so was
Right.
my brother Jim, but he lives in Minnesota and did what he could. But when you're the one right there on the ground every day, that's a whole different ballgame.
So if you, looking back, you say you have some regrets, like packing her quickly, I mean, obviously doing the laundry and stuff was something you had to do, you didn't
Right.
enjoy it, but if you were to give advice to our listeners, would you say take a little more time?
I'd
Or
say just
sometimes you can't, though.
Be
Sometimes you're-
patient.
Yeah.
Be patient.
I always was saying I get so aggravated.
I know, and
Yeah.
you know how you have that reversal where you become the caretaker and she becomes the kid. And she would say to me all the time, how do you think I got through this life without you, Nancy? I do know how to cut my chicken. I do know how to, but there were some things she just couldn't do
Right.
as time went on, as far as like her hand mouth and just things that definitely depleted as she aged.
Right.
But I do have to tell you, my kids and my nieces and nephews, they played a beautiful part in her life. And at the end of her life, each one of them individually came and had their own time with her to say goodbye. And I think after that, my mom was like, pause up,
Yeah.
like, I'm good.
Yeah, I had a beautiful life.
Really?
Yeah.
And I'm 92.
Yeah.
And she kept saying, why doesn't Jesus take me?
Yeah.
For God's sake, why doesn't he take me? And my brother would always say, he's not ready for you yet.
Right.
He just doesn't want you yet.
Right.
So she enjoyed like holidays in my home because she was right there.
Right.
She enjoyed being able to come, one of my favorite memories of her, my boys were runners and they were in a meet and Chris went and got my mom and she had this darling plaid blouse on and paired blue jeans and in her wheelchair and she just looked good. It was like one of those days she was perky and she looked really good. And he wheeled her up there. And you know how boys are. It's still, there's your grandma. And both those boys finished. She got to watch them do the race. And they both came up at the end and put their arms around her. And I remember being so grateful and not having to prompt that.
Yes.
Because they recognized her and they were proud to have her there. And I don't really think that's typical.
Right.
And as far as our daughter, there's nobody she loved more in the world
Aww.
than my mother. And my niece, my daughter and my niece are good friends and they're good comrades, and their relationship with my mother was unbelievable. In fact, my niece just named her baby Lillian.
Aww. That's beautiful.
Now, speaking about your daughter is another subject that we haven't touched on yet, but you adopted your daughter from China.
We did.
So that's a whole different transition in your life.
Right.
And your sons also came from
Right.
Korea.
Right.
So what led you to pursue adoption?
Well, years and years of fertility,
Okay.
frankly. And
Right.
so grateful for a strong marriage because that was probably one of my toughest hills to climb. Emotionally, physically.
Absolutely.
We both worked for really good school districts who had really good insurance, and that became harmful at the end because doctors would be like, hey, what if we try this, or have you considered that? I could have had as many IVFs as I wanted because the insurance was unbelievable at that time.
Yeah.
This was the 90s. So finally, Chris went on a camping trip And I remember it like it was yesterday. And I had some really strong anxiety issues while he was gone. And it was really God's way and my way of saying, I'm done. I can't do this. The amount of drugs that you take is unbelievable. Science is amazing. I mean, it's very successful for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
It just wasn't for us. And Chris came home from this trip, and I was standing there at the front door, and we were getting ready to, because this is how I am. It's like, okay, we didn't get pregnant. Chris is going to Canada. When he gets home, I'll start taking the drugs. We'll do an IVF. Then I'll start school. But before I do that, I'll go in and get my classroom done. And that's just how I am.
But the stress was...
But in my mind, it was like, well, that's the only way I can do it. And then I went through this period of anxiety and sleeplessness, and I think it was just my body's way of saying, you just can't do any more of this. So we kind of transcended into, let's adopt a baby. And it was almost corny as this is. It was almost 9 months to the day that we went through the adoption process, which is unbelievable.
That in itself is
unbelievable.
Just as stressful as IVF.
Well,
it's like a
right.
whole...
And at the time, my husband was an assistant principal, and he would be walking down the hall and see a pregnant 16-year-old and think, I've got somebody coming over and checking my smoke detectors to make sure our house is safe. Right. And this young lady, it just, there were so many times that we felt like, this is so unfair.
Right.
But we aren't those people.
But it's hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
And I really resented like, somebody get pregnant on our staff and they wouldn't tell me. And that hurts because I'm not that fragile. I mean, they knew I was going through a lot, but you don't want people to step around you that way. You don't want people to treat you in that manner, like you're some pariah. It just, and I don't think people understand that.
Right.
I think they do
thought
it.
They were protecting you.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So, about 9 months to the day, after all the adoption stuff was done, we got this package, this big FedEx package in the mail. And one of Chris's former students was building our deck. And I opened the mail and I just screamed. And he came running out. He's like, Mrs. Kontney, what's wrong? And I'm like, our baby's in here. And I couldn't open it because Chris wasn't home. So I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And we get this picture about this big of this little Chinese girl and about 7 sentences about her health.
Oh.
But then the whole rest of the packet was about the people that we were going to travel with and the other families that were getting their kids.
Oh
so we're all calling each other.
Like a sense of community.
It was unbelievable. That part was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And when we met in San Francisco on our way to China, and I know this sounds funny, but it was like, all of a sudden we weren't infertile anymore. All of a sudden everybody was having a baby.
Right.
And that was the best feeling.
Wow.
And we remained friends with some of those people. We've tried. We had reunions with the girls. But going to China was unbelievable. Unbelievable. And the man, Michael, who presented us with Beth in the vestibule of a hotel, and we got to watch every baby delivered to every family. It was something.
Wow.
And Beth was the smallest of all of them, and probably the most. She was about the size of those bitty babies from American Girl, and she was about that floppy. But I don't, I think they lay in these cribs until someone brings them in China. So when we got her, our first bath with her, I'll never forget any of it. She was drinking, we had to crush up sugar because that was how they fed the babies. They put sugar in their formula so that the kids would eat. Because there's probably 45 little girls in this, orphanage.
Right.
But our situation with the boys was completely different.
How so?
Ben and Kurt were in foster care. And at the time, Koreans were not adopting Koreans. So there were people from all over the world when we were in Seoul to get them. We thought the boys were in the same foster home because they're twins. Well, they were separated initially.
Oh my goodness.
So the woman that had one of them, and I don't know which one because they looked exactly the same, but the woman and Ben, thank God, had a glue bar cut his leg. And we were like, keep it there. Did you feed him yet? I don't know. But the mom who had one of the boys went and got the other one.
Oh.
And she had never fostered before. So when we went to take them out of her home, imagine somebody taking your 6-month-old child out of your home. Because, of course, she feels like they're hers,
Right. Yes.
And our last image of her was she was in her yard with her hands over her face, just sobbing.
Aww.
And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But you know what? We got home. The boys were very, very, very sad.
And how old were they?
They were 7 months.
Okay.
And at night they would call out whatever Korean word they were using for that particular person. It took a while. I was never so glad to go back to work because it was so hard.
Right.
And we had the most amazing caretaker, and she really helped us, through all that. But now, those 3 kids, they're something.
How old are they now?
The boys are turning 27 on Thursday.
Oh.
And Beth is 29. She just got married. Ben just got married. But what I love is this relationship that they have. It's incredible. And their relationship with my brother's kids. So it's really something.
Yeah.
It really is. They are very special people. They were never much trouble in high school, mainly because my husband held a job with District 211 that was fairly prominent.
Right.
And I think they were like, oh, probably not a good idea. Dad's there. And
Yeah.
so they've been just wonderful. Absolutely
Wow.
wonderful.
Now, you have one child from China, 2 from Korea. So how did you navigate keeping their cultural heritage intact?
Yep.
In them being here, and obviously you don't share their heritage.
Exactly. Well, one thing we're doing is next year we're all going to Korea
Oh, wow.
and going back to just do whatever they want. They're all filling out a spreadsheet. The boys have decided that they are not interested in looking for their family, which we thought we were very open to. But as far as when they were little, like we did the whole Korean first birthday with the boys, and they wore this outfits, and I packed them all up, so they could show their kids. They have a passion for that kind of food. All 3 of my kids have a huge passion, and they're amazing cooks. So they have kept that going. Beth, we did the Chinese language for a little bit, but after a while, I don't know if I'd say they lost interest. They were just so busy living life.
Right.
And the culture, we've never not talked about them being adopted. We've never not talked about them, obviously looking different than the rest of us, because they do. We have a cabin up in northern Wisconsin, and I really believe the first night that we walked into one of the supper clubs, it was right on our lake, that we had our 3 Asian kids. People are like, oh, because there just aren't any. And everybody got to know them right away.
Oh, yeah.
So I know that, like, Ben married a gal from Minnesota who's not Asian, and Beth married her love of her life from college who's not Asian. I don't know about Kurt. Kurt's probably stayed a little more interested in the culture than either of the 3 kids, but we never pushed it, but we certainly welcomed it.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I think I enjoyed most is when they started cooking. And they were all, and the restaurants they go to now are downtown, and they find all the stuff I had never even heard of. But it's enjoyable because
And do you like that?
I do like
Yeah,
that, and
oh,
I
good.
do love that food. I wish I was better at it. But when the kids have made a meal at my house and I look in the condiment drawer, like in your refrigerator,
Right.
I'm always like, what's that? What's that? What's that? Because they brought things that I wouldn't normally even know where to find.
Right.
And they go to Asian grocery stores all the time and do that.
But they pursued that on their own.
On their own,
Which is
right. And we
wonderful.
had it there. And a neat story is, for my birthday this year, Kurt gave me this gorgeous cocktail book of Korea. So that he's like, Mom, you need to pick out a few things you and Dad want to do when we're there. But mostly we've said to the kids and their spouses, this is your trip. What you want to do is most important. So they have a spreadsheet, because they're like that, and they're all putting in their ideas of where they want to go and what they want to do. And so I think that's going to be, and for their spouse, the 2 spouses, I think that's really going to be a neat thing to share that culture all the way around, with all
Absolutely.
of us. So we're looking forward to that.
And it's interesting to me because my husband is Black, so we have mixed children, and people will ask me the same question, like, how do you talk to your kids about being mixed? And I'm like, we don't.
Right. Right.
Like, it
Right.
just, it is
Right.
what
It is what it is.
And we just let them be who they are.
Exactly.
And so it's interesting for me
Because
to
as much
hear
as I
that
like to control
perspective.
things, I can't control that. But what is interesting is when they first came, and I think at first I was like, but I was with Beth at a little water park in one of our houses that we lived in, and I walked in and a woman stopped me and she said, "Is she yours?" And I said, "Yeah, I think so." I think so. $30,000 later, yeah. And inside me, I was like, who says that?
Right.
But it was new. Things were new. It was 1996.
Yes.
Things are new. And I needed to probably step back a little bit and have a little patience with that. But there was a side
There's that word again.
Right. But there was a side of me that was just like, really? You're going to ask me that?
Oh, yeah.
Once all three of them were together, I think people figured it out. And we did adopt Korean boys because we thought it would be nice for Beth and for us to have that Asian mix of all the kids. We thought about domestically adopting, but Korea was still open then. Mm-hmm. And it was, frankly, a little easier to go to Korea than it was to China. It was a little less political, a little less, not less money. Because the first thing the gal said to me is, "This is not a 2-for-1 situation." And we were like, "What do you mean?" But that's money well spent. Yeah. We would have done it 10 times over.
Right.
Of course. Because those are your babies.
Right.
So you've gone through all these transitions with your mom, with your children. Now they're grown, and you recently retired.
Right.
So what does that mean for you now with your life transition? Obviously, you're volunteering a little more.
Right. Right.
And you've traveled a lot, and you're obviously continuing to travel.
Yeah.
What else is on the horizon for you? Do you have anything that you're dying to do?
It's fun because I've done a lot of neat things, and my husband is yet to be retired, so we are not traveling together yet, which is disappointing, but he's going to work another 2 years, and that's what it is. But I think for me, really just nurturing friendships and spending time with my family, and no one that's listening that knows me would believe me, but trying to slow down just a little, and maybe not feel guilty because I took a nap.
I just met you and I don't believe
But having, I think, a little bit more time for myself, reading a little bit more, nurturing friendships, having coffee with the girls, stuff that and really nothing big.
As working women, we didn't get to do that all the time.
Never.
We didn't get to go, lunch
and by
with
the
ladies.
By the time it was 4:00, the last thing I wanted to do was have coffee with you.
Right.
Because I had to get home and take somebody somewhere.
Right.
As we all did.
Yes.
And I wouldn't change that for the world.
Right.
Absolutely not.
I loved every minute of that.
It was just a different life.
Right. And things that happened, like when my mom passed away, because she had such a lovely life, I did have a little relief.
Yeah.
I could step back a little bit more. I wasn't so, because that was a couple of nights a week. Wheel of Fortune, watching Wheel of Fortune with her, hanging out, but and my kids were very understanding. Right. And I wasn't the kind of teacher who left the classroom at 4:00 in the afternoon.
Right.
I mean, I in the later part of my career, I was working at a school in Barrington that had a little bit of a different clientele, and I didn't know the clientele, and I was trying to figure it out. So I asked the parents if I could come over and read to their kids at night. So I would wear my pajamas, like a pajama. Yeah. Lonza Salzburg.
Not your lingerie.
Not my lingerie. And I'd wear a boa and a crown, and so it was kind of a gimmick.
Yeah.
And I'd show up at their door if they allowed it, and sometimes I would couldn't. No 25-year-old teacher could do this now, but at 50-some, I was worry-free. But I could sit sometimes on their bed and read with them.
Yeah.
But my point being, my kids didn't even blink as I was walking out the door with my pajamas on.
Wow, they were used to it.
Because they were used to that. And Chris being an extremely hard worker, they were used to those kinds of late night, doing the extra. Mm-hmm. And that was an example I think we were trying to show them. Everybody doesn't have to do it, because kids nowadays have that whole work-life balance thing that they think have figured out. Right. I can't wait till they have a couple kids, and let me know how it goes.
And what kind of grandmother do you want to be when they have a couple kids?
Well, you know what I don't want to be? I don't want to babysit.
Oh,
thank you.
This is the same conversation as
I just
Jasmine had.
And my sister-in-law, my brother married my sorority sister, one of my best friends from college. And we talk about this all the time. We love these kids.
You don't mind babysitting once in a while.
Oh, of course.
But you don't want to be the
I don't want to be Tuesday.
Right. I don't want to be the nanny.
I don't want to be Tuesday.
Yeah.
No. I just don't want to be Tuesday.
You don't mind, like, jumping in an emergency?
Of course I would do that. And if they needed help for a week, or if somebody was sick, I'm glad to do all that. I just don't want to be Tuesday.
Are you going to
What if I want to golf on Tuesday?
Right. Are you going to have the Matchbox car in your purse?
I am going to have the Matchbox car in my purse. And if I could emulate that, if I could just figure out what she did that was so magical.
Yeah.
You have a little magic.
Yes,
so I think you already got that figured out.
Thank you. I hope so, because I tell you, when you're raised by a woman like that, it's a gift.
Yeah.
She was a gift.
The passion is oozing out of you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think what we learned here today is that everyone has a story to tell, and everyone has experiences that they can share. And it doesn't matter where you are in life, how old you are, whether or not you're retired, you still have something to give.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to what our podcast is about and why we do this.
But that's why I love what you're doing.
Yeah.
I was reading all the things that you've put in, all the people that have come here. I had no idea.
Yeah.
And it's such a menagerie.
Yeah.
You know,
And
like you're touching on all these different things.
Different topics.
So I have been blessed to have been here. Thank you.
On that note, we thank you for joining us. We hope that you will follow, subscribe, and tune in next week
to see what we might come up with next. Who knows?
Thank you for tuning in to Help Nobody Told Me.